I remember the sun was still high, just a typical afternoon really. I'd walked that path 100 times, always sticking to the worn dirt. But that day, something tugged at me, a whisper to step off the trail just for a moment. The woods grew thicker almost instantly, the light fading, even though the canopy wasn't that dense. And then I saw it. Not a natural crevice, not a rock shelter, but a black, perfect circle carved into the earth, half hidden by a curtain of moss and hanging vines. It looked less like an opening and more like an eye watching me. A cold, damp air spilled out, carrying a smell I couldn't quite place, but it made my stomach clench. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my feet, they just kept moving forward. My feet moved heavy and unbidden towards that perfect obsidian mouth. It wasn't a conscious decision. It was as if some invisible current had caught me, pulling me closer to the shore of an unknown sea. The air grew colder with every step, prickling my skin, and that strange smell intensified. It was earthy, yes, but not like damp soil or decaying leaves. It was metallic almost, like old blood mixed with something else, something ancient and dry, like dust from a forgotten tomb. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the woods, which seemed to have fallen completely still around me. No birds chirp, no leaves rustled, just the sound of my own ragged breath and the relentless thud of my heart. I reached the opening, my hand instinctively reaching out, not to touch, but to brace myself. The moss that framed it was unnaturally thick, almost furry, and as I got closer, I saw it wasn't just moss. Tiny, fibrous roots, like dark capillaries, seemed to weave into the very rock itself, forming a living frame around the void. The darkness inside wasn't just an absence of light. It was a hungry, consuming blackness that seemed to absorb any stray photons daring to venture near. It felt less like a tunnel and more like a throat. I peered in, my eyes straining, but there was nothing to see, just the absolute, impenetrable dark. A shiver ran down my spine, not from the cold, but from the primal terror of the unknown. Hello? My voice was barely a whisper, swallowed instantly by the void. It sounded alien, like it didn't belong in this place. No echo, no reverberation, just silence. And then a faint, almost imperceptible thrum. It wasn't a sound I heard with my ears, but one I felt in my teeth, in the soles of my feet. A low, resonant hum, like a distant, enormous machine, or perhaps something alive, breathing deep within the earth. My body screamed at me to turn back, to run, to forget I ever saw this place. But the pull was too strong. It was like I was being reeled in, a fish on an invisible line. My hand, without my conscious command, reached out and touched the edge of the circular opening. The rock was smooth, unnaturally so, and cold, far colder than the air. It felt polished, carved, and then I took a step. My boot sank slightly into the soft, damp earth just inside the entrance. The darkness enveloped me immediately, a thick, suffocating blanket. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. The metallic, earthy smell grew stronger, filling my lungs with every shaky breath. The thrumming intensified, vibrating through my bones, making my vision swim. I stumbled forward, my arms outstretched, trying to find a wall, a floor, anything solid. My fingers brushed against something cold and slick, a wall. And then I felt it. Not a sound, but a pressure. A change in the air, as if something vast had just shifted weight deeper inside. A low, guttural sigh seemed to vibrate through the very stone around me. My heart seized in my chest. I wasn't alone in here. My breath hitched, catching in my throat. Every cell in my body screamed at me to turn and run, to claw my way back to the weak light of the entrance, but my feet were rooted to the spot. The darkness wasn't just an absence of light anymore. It pressed in on me, a physical weight, like a shroud woven from fear itself. It felt less like I was standing in a cave and more like I was standing inside something vast and alive, something that was now acutely aware of my presence. It felt like something was watching me from within that impenetrable black. The throbbing in my bones intensified, a rapid, frantic pulse now, mirroring my own terrified heartbeat. And that smell, it was stronger, sickeningly sweet now, mingled with the metallic tang. It was like something rotting, but not quite. Something ancient and wet, something both alive and decaying at the same time. I tried to back away, my foot scraping uselessly on the damp floor. My hands flailed wildly in the void, searching for the opening, for the faint promise of the outside world. But there was nothing, just the slick, cold wall to my left and an empty, terrifying expanse to my right. The air grew heavy, thick with whatever oppressive presence shared this space with me. I could feel it now, a vast, unseen mass just beyond my immediate perception. It wasn't moving towards me, not yet. It was observing, waiting. Then a sound. Not the sigh again, but a soft, wet slithering from deeper within the darkness, followed by a faint, rhythmic drip, drip, drip. It was close, too close. My breath caught in my throat. I squeezed my eyes shut, as if that would somehow make it disappear. But the darkness behind my eyelids was just as absolute, and the sounds were sharper, clearer. The thrumming changed again, becoming irregular, like a monstrous heart struggling to beat. Something brushed against my ankle, cold, clammy, and incredibly strong. I cried out, a pathetic whimper swallowed instantly by the cavern. I stumbled back, lost my footing, and fell hard onto the damp earth. The impact jarred my teeth, sending a jolt of pain through my tailbone. Panic, pure and unadulterated, flooded my senses. I scrambled backward on my hands and knees, desperate to escape whatever had touched me, whatever lurked in this abyss. My fingers scraped against jagged rocks, then brushed against something smooth, like polished bone. I tried to push myself up, my muscles screaming, but my head hit something low and solid above me. The world spun. The metallic, sweet smell was overwhelming now, choking me. I could hear shallow, raspy breathing, not my own, incredibly close. It was a wet, grating sound, like sandpaper on damp wood. And then a whisper, not in my ears, but in my mind. A voice that wasn't a voice, a thought that wasn't mine. Ancient and cold, echoing in the blackness. Welcome. The word echoed, not in my ears, but directly in the hollow of my skull, cold and ancient as the stone itself. It was a thought, not a sound, yet it resonated with an undeniable, terrifying clarity. My breath hitched, a strangled gasp escaping my lips, but it was drowned out by that wet, grating rasp right beside my ear. The smell, already overwhelming, intensified, cloying and sweet, like a charnel house filled with exotic, decaying flowers. My stomach churned, and I felt bile rise in my throat. I tried to push myself up again, my hands scrabbling blindly on the slick, cold floor. But my muscles felt like lead. My head throbbed from the impact, and the world tilted precariously in the absolute dark. The thrumming, which had become a frantic, irregular beat, now settled into a low, guttural pulse that felt like it was coming from inside my own chest. I could feel the vibrations through the very ground beneath me, a monstrous heartbeat echoing through the earth. Something wet and heavy brushed against my cheek, then dragged slowly, deliberately across my forehead. My eyes flew open, though there was nothing to see, only the impenetrable blackness. I choked back a scream, a raw animal sound trapped in my throat. It wasn't just a touch, it felt like a deliberate caress, a vile intimacy. The metallic, sweet stench was suffocating now, making my head spin. I could hear it breathing, a wet, rattling inhale and a long, shuddering exhale, so close I could feel the faint current of air on my face. My hand, still flailing, closed around something. It wasn't the jagged rock I'd felt before, nor the smooth, polished bone. This was different. Soft, yet firm, with a strange, fibrous texture. It felt like a cluster of thick, fleshy tendrils pulsating faintly in my grip. I recoiled instantly, tearing my hand away as if burned, a wave of revulsion washing over me. What was I touching? What was touching me? The low, guttural pulse intensified, and then the whisper returned, not in my mind this time, but seemingly from the air itself, a dry, rustling sound that slithered into my ears. You are mine now. It wasn't a question, it was a declaration, absolute and terrifying. My mind reeled. I was trapped, disoriented, and utterly at the mercy of whatever ancient, monstrous thing lurked in this suffocating darkness. I could feel its presence pressing in from all sides, a vast, unseen entity that had been waiting, perhaps for centuries, for someone foolish enough to stumble into its domain. My heart hammered, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. I needed to move, I needed to run, but where and how? The darkness was a living thing, and I was its prey. My blood ran cold, colder than the rock I lay on. My heart hammered against my ribs, not just a beat, but a frantic, desperate thrum that echoed the monstrous pulse beneath me. I clawed at the damp earth, trying to push myself upright, to find purchase, anything to get away. But my limbs felt heavy, unresponsive, as if the darkness itself had seeped into my bones, weighing me down. The raspy breathing was right above me now, a wet, guttural sound that seemed to scrape against my eardrums, filling my head. And then a shadow, not seen with my eyes, but felt as a vast, suffocating presence, moved over me, blotting out even the theoretical light of the far-off entrance. The tendrils, they were everywhere, not just one, but dozens, thick and slick, snaking out from the impenetrable blackness above and around me. They wrapped around my ankles first, cold and surprisingly strong, pulling me back as I tried to crawl forward. Then they coiled around my calves, my thighs, binding me to the damp ground. Panic surged, raw and primal, and I thrashed wildly, screaming, but no sound came out, only a choked, pathetic gasp as a thick, fleshy band tightened around my mouth, pressing my lips together. The metallic, sweet stench was overwhelming, forcing its way into my nose, my throat, making my stomach heave. I could taste it, a foul, coppery sweetness that coated my tongue. I could feel its body now, a vast, pulsating mass settling over me, the thrumming becoming a deafening roar in my skull. It wasn't just breathing, it was consuming the air around me, leaving me gasping for the putrid remnants. Something cold and wet slid across my chest, then burrowed under my shirt, exploring my skin with chilling purpose. My eyes, wide open in the dark, still saw nothing, but my mind painted a horrifying picture. A colossal, ancient horror, all sinew and slime, its unseen form pressing down, absorbing me into its own suffocating existence. The tendrils tightened further, squeezing the breath from my lungs, crushing my ribs. My vision, already dark, began to swim with faint, swirling lights, the last desperate sparks of my consciousness. The whispers returned, not words now, but a chorus of ancient, hungry thoughts, swirling and merging, filling my mind with absolute, suffocating dread. I felt myself sinking, not into the ground, but into something far worse, something vast and timeless that had finally claimed its prize. My struggles weakened, my muscles spasming, my world shrinking to the cold, wet press of its body and the overwhelming, inescapable stench. My last coherent thought was a silent scream, echoing in the void of my fading mind. I don't know how long I was gone, or where I truly went. There's a blank space, a void where my memories should be, filled only with that endless thrumming. But I woke up. Not in the cave, not in the woods, but in my own bed, the morning sun streaming through the window. Everything was normal. Too normal. I tried to dismiss it, to rationalize it, a vivid hallucination brought on by exhaustion. But the smell, it lingers. That metallic, sweet, ancient scent. It's on my clothes, in my hair, deep in my lungs. And sometimes, when the house is quiet, I can still hear it. That low, guttural pulse vibrating through the floorboards, through my very bones. It's a part of me now. The darkness I stepped into, it didn't just consume me, it became me. I feel its ancient thoughts, not as words, but as a deep, primal hunger that gnaws at the edges of my sanity. I walk among you, I speak to you, but I am not entirely here. Part of me is still in that black, perfect circle, waiting. Have you ever felt it? That pull, that whisper to step off the path? That moment where instinct screams, but something else compels you forward? Have you ever found a place that felt like it was watching you, waiting for you to stumble in? Because some holes aren't meant to be explored. Some darknesses aren't just an absence of light. They're alive, and they remember.